The restaurant buzzed with a vibrant energy, celebratory laughter, the cheerful clinking of glasses, the low hum of overlapping conversations. Golden fairy lights twinkled from the ceiling beams, casting a warm, festive glow over the long dining table where my co-workers from Miller Innovations and I sat. Tonight was supposed to be special. Tonight was supposed to be my night. For the past 5 years, I had poured my heart, soul, and countless unpaid overtime hours into this company. I was the go-to problem solver, the one who tackled the messy projects no one else wanted, the unofficial mentor to junior employees, even though none of that was explicitly in my job description. My boss, Robert Miller, had been dropping heavy hints for months, telling me I was the clear frontrunner, practically destined for the vacant senior manager position. And tonight, at this very company party celebrating a successful quarter, he was expected to make the official announcement. I had pictured this moment countless times. The applause, the handshake, the feeling of pride, the long overdue validation. I smoothed the hem of my navy blue dress, taking a deep breath, and glanced around the table. My team was in high spirits, laughing and toasting the company's success. At the head of the table, Mr. Miller stood up, clinking his wine glass with a fork, signaling for attention. The room gradually quieted. My heart began to pound in anticipation. "Tonight," he began, his deep voice carrying easily over the remaining chatter, "I want to take a moment to recognize someone truly exceptional, someone who has shown incredible dedication, drive, and talent in just a short time here at Miller Innovations." "Short time?" My smile faltered slightly. "It's rare," he continued, beaming, "to find someone who can make such a significant impact in only 3 months. 3 months? My blood ran cold. Robert turned, gesturing towards my coworker down the table, Sophia Hayes, the new hire. Sophia. "Sophia," he announced grandly, "you have exceeded all our expectations. Your innovative leadership, your creativity, your problem-solving skills, they have impressed us all immensely, which is why," he paused for dramatic effect, "I am absolutely thrilled to officially announce your promotion to senior manager. Congratulations, Sophia." The room erupted into applause. I sat frozen, my fingers clenched tightly around the stem of my untouched champagne glass. My throat tightened, making it hard to breathe, but I forced a smile onto my face. I clapped along mechanically with the others as Sophia stood, blushing prettily, and graciously accepted her new title, offering brief, practiced remarks. This wasn't happening. It couldn't be. I felt my world tilt on its axis as Miller, apparently remembering my existence, turned back towards my end of the table, grinning broadly. "And of course, Emily," he said, his tone patronizingly magnanimous, "you've been such a valuable member of the team for so long. We appreciate everything you do." That was it. 5 years of dedication reduced to an afterthought, a hollow platitude. If you've ever been blindsided at work, hit subscribe on Life Stories. You're not alone. I swallowed the lump of disappointment and humiliation lodged in my throat, forcing my smile wider, brighter, more brittle. "Of course," I managed, raising my glass in a toast I didn't feel. "Sophia absolutely deserves it. Congratulations again, Sophia." Miller nodded approvingly, clearly pleased with my gracious response. Then, inexplicably, perhaps fueled by wine or sheer arrogance, he added with a chuckle, pointing playfully between Sophia and me, "She already does a lot more than you, Emily. You should take notes." A wave of stunned silence rippled through the nearby colleagues, followed by uncomfortable, forced laughter. Sophia giggled awkwardly, mumbling something like, "Oh, I wouldn't say that, Mr. Miller," but the damage was done. The words hung in the air, heavy and sharp, like a public slap across my face. Take notes, from someone with 3 months' experience compared to my 5 years. I laughed along with them, a hollow sound that barely reached my own ears. What else could I do? Burst into tears? Demand an explanation? Beg him to reconsider the decision he had so clearly already made and publicly cemented? No, That wasn't my style. Instead, I lifted my champagne glass to my lips again and took a long, slow, deliberate sip, the bubbles doing nothing to soothe the storm raging inside me. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. I smiled. I made small talk. I congratulated Sophia again, managing a brief, professional handshake. I listened politely as Miller pontificated about the company's bright future under new, dynamic leadership. I played the part of the loyal team player, the good sport, while inside, a cold, hard resolve began to form. The humiliation stung, yes. The broken promises, the blatant disregard for my contributions, the casual cruelty of his "take notes" comment. It all burned. But beneath the hurt, something else was solidifying. A decision. When the party finally wound down, and I stepped outside into the cool Seattle night air, the city lights blurring slightly through unshed tears I refused to let fall, I didn't head home to wallow. I pulled out my phone. My fingers trembled slightly, not from cold, but from adrenaline, as I composed a short, simple email. To Robert Miller, HR Department. Subject: Resignation Letter, Submission. Dear Mr. Miller, please find my official resignation letter attached, confirming my departure from Miller Innovations. My resignation is effective immediately. Sincerely, Emily Vance. I hesitated for only a fraction of a second, reread the blunt words, then hit send. As the email icon disappeared from my outbox, signaling the irreversible severing of a 5-year tie, I took a deep, shuddering breath. And for the first time in years, working under Miller's increasingly unpredictable leadership, I felt something entirely unexpected wash over me. Relief. A profound, cleansing sense of relief. But I wasn't just walking away defeated. Oh no. Robert Miller had made a critical error. He had underestimated me. He had discarded me carelessly. And come Monday morning, he was about to find out exactly what happens when you underestimate the wrong person. The quiet one who sees everything. The one who knows where all the operational bodies are buried. He thought he had solved a problem by promoting the shiny new hire over the experienced veteran. He had no idea the real problems were just about to begin. The weekend was a period of quiet reflection and decisive planning. The initial shock and hurt began to fade, replaced by a simmering anger and, more importantly, a sense of clarity. For years, I had subconsciously dimmed my own light at Miller Innovations, careful not to outshine the boss, always framing my successes as team efforts, downplaying my individual contributions to maintain harmony. I'd seen how Miller reacted to perceived threats, pushing out the highly competent CFO, David Chen, a year earlier simply because Chen had dared to question some of Miller's riskier financial strategies. I hadn't wanted to meet the same fate, so I played the loyal soldier, the reliable workhorse, hoping my dedication would eventually be rewarded on merit. How wrong I had been. My loyalty hadn't earned respect. It had bred complacency in Miller. He took my hard work for granted, assuming I'd always be there, quietly fixing problems, cleaning up messes, never demanding the recognition I deserved. The promotion snub wasn't just a poor management decision. It was the culmination of years of being undervalued. The public humiliation was just the final clarifying insult. I spent Saturday reviewing my personal finances, confirming I had enough savings to comfortably bridge the gap between jobs. I updated my resume, highlighting the quantifiable results I'd achieved at Miller, the percentage increase in client retention I drove, the cost savings from operational efficiencies I implemented, the major contracts I personally secured. Seeing it all laid out reinforced my value, solidifying my resolve. Then, I did something I'd been putting off for months. I reached out to David Chen. After Miller forced him out, David had started his own boutique consulting firm, Chen Consulting Group, specializing in operational strategy. Exactly my area of expertise. He had actually contacted me a few months prior, tentatively sounding me out about joining him, offering a potential director-level role. At the time, still clinging to the hope of advancement at Miller Innovations, still bound by that misplaced loyalty, I had politely declined. Now, the situation had changed dramatically. I sent him a brief email, explaining my sudden availability and expressing renewed interest in discussing opportunities. His reply came within the hour, an enthusiastic invitation to meet for coffee first thing Monday morning. By Sunday evening, the anger had cooled, replaced by a steely determination. I wasn't just leaving a job. I was reclaiming my career, my professional worth. Robert Miller thought he had discarded me. He had no idea he had just set me free and potentially unleashed his most formidable competitor. That Monday morning felt charged with a strange energy as I walked into the Miller Innovations office building. The weekend had been a whirlwind of quiet planning and mental preparation, solidifying my resolve. My resignation email, sent late Friday night, would be sitting unread in Robert Miller's inbox, a ticking time bomb he hadn't yet discovered. He likely expected me to show up, perhaps subdued, perhaps slightly resentful, but ultimately compliant, ready to take notes from the newly promoted Sophia Hayes. He had no idea what was truly coming. At first glance, the office floor seemed normal. The receptionist offered her usual bright smile. Colleagues gathered near the coffee machine, dissecting their weekends. Sophia was already at her desk. The larger one, previously designated for the senior manager role, cleared out hastily on Friday afternoon, basking in the glow of her unexpected promotion, looking slightly self-conscious, but pleased. I felt no animosity towards Sophia herself. She was merely a pawn in Miller's game, likely as surprised by the promotion as anyone. My issue wasn't with her. It was squarely with the man in the corner office, the one who had cultivated my loyalty with false promises for months, only to publicly humiliate me and discard 5 years of my contributions like they were nothing. I walked calmly to my old desk, deliberately taking my time. I placed my bag beside the chair, booted up my computer, logged in, muscle memory taking over. I wasn't here to work, but I needed access one last time. I wanted him to come to me. And right on cue, barely 5 minutes after I'd sat down, his office door swung open with unnecessary force. "Emily, my office, now!" His voice boomed across the open-plan workspace, sharp with an urgency that bordered on panic. The entire floor fell instantly silent. Heads snapped up. Keyboards stopped clicking. People exchanged wide-eyed, nervous glances. No one had ever heard Robert Miller sound like that before. Not angry exactly, but desperate? Confused? Definitely not his usual arrogant self. I stood up slowly, deliberately smoothing down my blouse, taking a calming breath. Then, with measured steps, I walked towards his office, feeling the weight of dozens of curious eyes following me. The heavy door clicked shut behind me, muffling the sudden buzz of speculation I knew had erupted on the floor. Miller was already seated behind his large, imposing desk, his usual smug confidence entirely absent. In his hand, he held a printed copy of my resignation email, his knuckles white. He looked up as I entered, his eyes scanning my face intently, as if searching for some sign that this was all an elaborate, ill-conceived joke. "You're leaving?" His voice was incredulous, laced with disbelief. "Yes, Robert," I replied calmly, taking a seat in the visitor chair opposite him without being invited, folding my hands composedly in my lap. "As per my email, my resignation is effective immediately." "But why?" He gestured helplessly at the email. "This is so sudden, out of the blue. We didn't discuss this. There was no warning." I allowed myself a small, soft laugh, devoid of humor. "We didn't discuss Sophia Hayes' promotion either, Robert," I pointed out gently. "But here we are." His jaw tightened, a flicker of his usual defensiveness returning. "Emily, that wasn't personal. I told you Friday, Sophia simply outperformed you recently. She showed initiative." "She's been here for 3 months," I stated flatly, tilting my head slightly. 3 months compared to my 5 years of consistently exceeding targets, implementing cost-saving measures, mentoring half the team, and salvaging projects you nearly tanked. "But sure," I shrugged lightly. "If outperformed is the narrative you need to believe, then okay." Miller leaned forward, trying a different tactic, attempting to summon his manipulative charm. "Emily, look," he said. his voice softening slightly. You know I appreciate you, right? You've been such an important, integral part of this company for 5 years. A real asset. I genuinely don't want to lose you. I stared at him for a long moment, letting his words hang in the air, marveling at the sheer, unadulterated audacity. You don't want to lose me? I repeated slowly, raising a skeptical eyebrow. But you had no problem overlooking me for a promotion I demonstrably earned, a promotion you yourself hinted was mine for months. You had no problem standing by, no actively participating, while I was publicly humiliated at my own team's celebration party. And you certainly had no problem telling me, in front of everyone, to take notes from someone who just walked in the door 3 months ago. His expression shifted again, the forced sincerity cracking, revealing the frustration underneath. Look, he said quickly, running a hand through his thinning hair, a nervous gesture I recognized. Okay, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I should have handled the announcement differently, spoken to you privately first. Fine, but you resigning? Out of nowhere? This isn't the right response, Emily. You're clearly making an emotional decision based on Friday night. I smiled then, a genuine, calm smile this time, because his assumption was so wildly incorrect. Robert, I said gently, I sent that resignation email late Friday night, hours after the party ended. If this were purely an emotional reaction, don't you think I would have stormed out right then and there? Or perhaps sent a furious, rambling email in the heat of the moment? I paused, letting him absorb that. But I didn't. I went home. I considered my options calmly. I made a rational, strategic decision. This wasn't impulsive, Robert. I planned this, and I am leaving, entirely on my own terms. His hand curled into a fist on the desk again. He wasn't used to being contradicted, wasn't used to losing control of the narrative. So what's your brilliant plan, then? He asked, his voice sharp with sarcasm now. Run off crying to one of our competitors? Because I feel obligated to remind you, Emily, about the rather strict non-compete agreement you signed. I laughed again, louder this time. He really had no idea. Oh, Robert, I chuckled, standing up smoothly. That's adorable. I don't need to go crawling to one of your competitors. I paused, leaning forward slightly over his desk, relishing the dawning confusion in his eyes. You see, while you were busy overlooking my contributions, grooming your new favorite, and generally taking my loyalty for granted, someone else wasn't. He frowned, suspicion replacing the confusion. What do you mean? I took a deep breath, savoring the final reveal. Do you remember David Chen, Robert? I asked innocently. The brilliant CFO you forced out last year because his competence threatened your ego? Miller tensed visibly. Of course, he remembered. Chen's departure had been messy, controversial, leaving a significant gap in strategic financial leadership that the company was still struggling to fill. David reached out to me a few months ago, I continued, watching Miller's face closely. He's starting his own firm, Chen Consulting Group. Highly specialized, already generating significant buzz. He wanted me to come on board, to lead his entire operations department. A director-level position, Robert, significant equity. I paused again. I actually turned him down initially. Out of loyalty. Loyalty to this company, believe it or not. Loyalty I thought might eventually be recognized. I leaned in a little closer, lowering my voice conspiratorially. But Friday night? That changed everything. The moment I walked out of that restaurant, I called David back. He repeated the offer. And this time, I smiled brightly, I accepted. Silence. Pure, unfiltered, gobsmacked silence. Robert Miller stared at me, his face paling, his mind clearly scrambling to process the implications. Me, leaving. David Chen, his ousted, respected rival. Together, starting next Monday. Robert Miller gaped at me, the color draining from his face, his earlier panic now morphing into stunned disbelief. You're leaving, he repeated, his voice barely a whisper this time, the implication finally hitting him with full force. You're going to work for David Chen? After I fired him? I start next Monday, I confirmed again, my voice bright and clear. Director of Operations at Chen Consulting Group. As I said, it's a fantastic opportunity. He opened his mouth, closed it, floundered for a moment, searching for a way to regain control, to salvage the situation. "Emily," he finally pleaded, his voice strained, attempting reason where none was left. "Be reasonable. Miller Innovations. This company. It's been your home for 5 years. You built your career here. You know the systems, the clients, the team inside and out. Don't throw that all away for some risky startup run by Chen." "A startup run by one of the most respected financial minds in the industry?" I countered smoothly. "A startup already attracting significant investor attention? A role where my expertise is actually valued and I'm given leadership responsibility from day one?" "Robert, it doesn't sound risky to me. It sounds like exactly the opportunity I should have been given here." "But we can fix this," he insisted desperately. "We can talk. I can match Chen's offer, better it even. We can create a new role for you. Co-director? Executive VP? Just name it, Emily. Don't leave." "I don't want to talk, Robert," I interrupted again, my voice firm but devoid of the earlier anger, replaced now by a calm finality. "My decision is made. The time for talking, for working something out, for recognizing my value, that ship sailed Friday night when you chose public humiliation over basic professional respect." I picked up the small cardboard box containing my personal belongings from beside the chair. "This isn't about money or titles anymore. It's about principle. It's about respect, something that seems to be in very short supply around here lately." I walked towards the door, pausing with my hand on the handle. He clenched his jaw tightly, his eyes narrowing with a mixture of fury and impotent panic. "You won't be able to come back here, you know," he threatened again, the words sounding weak, hollow. "Once you walk out that door for Chen, it's burned bridges." I simply smiled, a calm, almost pitying smile this time. "Robert," I said softly, "believe me, I won't need to." And with that, I turned and walked out of his office, closing the door gently but firmly behind me, leaving him alone in the wreckage of his own making. Stepping back out onto the main office floor felt like walking onto a stage after the main actor has stormed off. The silence was palpable. Every head was turned towards Miller's closed door, then snapped towards me as I emerged, box in hand. The air crackled with unspoken questions, with nervous energy, with the undeniable thrill of corporate drama unfolding live. I ignored the stares, the whispers that started almost immediately. I walked with measured steps back towards my now former desk area, intending to simply retrieve my coat and leave. But Olivia Martin, my trusted former colleague, intercepted me halfway, her eyes wide with a mixture of shock and admiration. "Emily, is it true?" she whispered urgently. "Did you really?" I nodded, offering her a small, genuine smile. "Yep. Time for me to move on, Liv." She exhaled sharply, shaking her head in disbelief. "Wow. Just... wow. Good for you. Seriously, I mean..." She lowered her voice again, glancing nervously towards Miller's office. "I get why, after Friday. That was just awful, what he did, but I honestly didn't think you'd actually walk out." "Neither did Robert," I murmured wryly. Olivia let out a stifled laugh, quickly turning it into a cough. "Well, he's a complete idiot if he thinks this place runs without you. Everyone knows you deserve that promotion, not Sophia." Speaking of Sophia, as if summoned, the newly promoted senior manager finally mustered the courage to approach me as I reached the elevator bank, wringing her hands nervously. She looked genuinely distressed, caught in the crossfire. "Emily," she said breathlessly, her face flushed. I just wanted to say, about Friday night. I didn't know he was going to announce it like that. I had no idea he was going to say those things. About taking notes." I held up a hand gently, cutting off her flustered explanation. I truly didn't blame her for accepting the opportunity, even if the circumstances were unfair to me. My issue was with Miller. "It's fine, Sophia. I said, my voice softer now, not unkindly. It wasn't her fault, not really. It's done. Congratulations again on the promotion. Enjoy it. I hope, I added with perhaps a touch of pointed meaning, it works out well for you. She flinched slightly, likely understanding the unspoken implication that the role might be harder than she anticipated without me there. But I was already stepping into the waiting elevator. As the polished steel doors slid shut, sealing me off from the tense office floor, the whispers, the drama, I let out a long, slow breath I hadn't realized I was holding. This wasn't just the end of a frustrating chapter. This felt like the beginning of a whole new book. Stepping into the sleek, modern offices of Chen Consulting Group that first Monday felt like inhaling fresh air after being trapped in a stuffy, stale room for years. The energy was different, dynamic, collaborative, forward-thinking. David Chen, my new boss and former colleague, greeted me not with the reserved formality, but with genuine warmth and professional respect. "Emily?" He'd smiled, shaking my hand firmly. "Welcome aboard. We're thrilled to have your expertise. Ready to hit the ground running?" And I was. The Director of Operations role was challenging, demanding, but incredibly rewarding. I was given real autonomy, my ideas were sought after and listened to, and my experience was treated as a valuable asset, not a threat. I thrived in the new environment, quickly establishing new operational efficiencies, mentoring my team, and contributing significantly to the firm's rapidly growing success. It felt good to be genuinely valued again. Meanwhile, back at Miller Innovations, the predicted chaos began to unfold almost immediately. Olivia Martin kept me sporadically updated via discreet text messages, painting a picture of increasing dysfunction. Olivia M. "OMG, Emily, you wouldn't believe the mess here. Sophia Hayes is completely drowning. She has no clue how to handle half the systems you managed. Clients are already complaining about slower response times." A few days later, Olivia M. "Miller is panicking, big time. He had to call an emergency all-hands meeting this morning because apparently no one knows how to generate the quarterly client performance reports you used to automate." He was actually yelling, and later that week, "Olivia M. Remember the logistics software upgrade you were planning? Total disaster. Sophia tried to implement it without understanding the integration points. Half the shipping system is down. Miller looks like he's aged 10 years in a week." While a small, petty part of me might have felt a flicker of schadenfreude, the predominant feeling was a weary sense of validation. Miller, in his arrogance, had assumed anyone could do my job, that my 5 years of building systems, training staff, and managing complex client needs were easily replaceable by someone with a fraction of the experience. He was learning, painfully, that competence and institutional knowledge actually mattered. The real impact, however, came not from internal chaos, but from external clients. As word spread through the industry grapevine that I had left Miller Innovations and joined Chen Consulting Group, my professional phone started ringing. First, it was James Peterson, the CEO of Apex Solutions, the major account I had managed for years. "Emily," he said, his tone urgent after brief pleasantries. "Heard you jumped ship. Smart move. Listen, things have been off over at Miller since you left. Responses are slow. The strategic insight just isn't there with this new Sophia person. Frankly, we're concerned. Our relationship was always built on your oversight. We'd like to discuss the possibility of moving the Apex account over to Chen Consulting to continue working directly with you." I was stunned, but professionally maintained my composure. "James," I replied carefully, "I appreciate your confidence immensely. Let's schedule a call with David Chen and myself later this week to discuss your needs and how Chen Consulting might be able to assist." That call was just the first domino. Within 2 weeks, executives from 2 other significant long-term clients I had personally managed at Miller reached out with similar concerns and inquiries. The message was consistent. "Emily, we trust you. Things aren't the same without you. We want to follow you." I wasn't actively soliciting their business. Professional ethics dictated I couldn't directly poach clients immediately after leaving. but they were initiating the contact, expressing profound dissatisfaction with the service levels and lack of strategic partnership they were experiencing under the new regime at Miller Innovations. Their loyalty, it became blindingly clear, had always been primarily attached to me, to the relationship and results I delivered, not just to the Miller Innovations brand name. Robert Miller, I imagined, must have been reeling from the impact. Losing one major client is bad. Losing 3 in quick succession, all directly citing the departure of a specific employee, is a corporate catastrophe. Olivia's text confirmed the escalating panic. Olivia, M. Board members were here yesterday. Closed-door meeting with Miller for hours. Lots of shouting overheard. Investors are apparently furious about Apex and the others potentially leaving. Olivia, M. Rumor is the board gave Miller an ultimatum. Fix the client situation fast, or else. He's scrambling, trying to personally call clients, offering discounts. Looks desperate. I could only shake my head. He had taken my contributions, my client relationships, completely for granted for years, and now he was finally learning, in the most brutal way possible, that some people, some contributions, are simply not replaceable. The best part? I wasn't even trying to actively hurt his company. I was simply succeeding, thriving, building something positive elsewhere. My success was becoming his consequence. That Friday afternoon, just as I was wrapping up a highly productive strategy session with David Chen, feeling energized and fulfilled, my phone buzzed with an email notification. The sender, Robert Miller. My eyebrows shot up. Subject, a proposal. Curious, I opened it. Emily, the email read, startlingly brief and stripped of his usual corporate jargon. I would like to have a conversation. I believe we can come to a mutually beneficial arrangement if you are open to it. Let's set up a meeting next week to discuss options. Looking forward to your response, Robert. I leaned back in my chair, rereading the short message, a slow, incredulous, slightly amused laugh escaping my lips. Mutually beneficial arrangement. Discuss options. Oh, Robert. He was desperate. Truly, utterly desperate. And for the first time in my entire 5-year tenure under his command, I held all the power, all of it. I stared at Robert Miller's brief, almost pleading email for a long moment, letting the sheer delicious irony of the situation settle in. The man who had publicly dismissed me told me to take notes from a neophyte and treated my 5 years of loyalty as disposable, was now requesting a meeting, suggesting a mutually beneficial arrangement. His carefully constructed world, built on arrogance and underestimation, was clearly crumbling around him, and now he was turning back to the very person he had so carelessly discarded, hoping she could somehow salvage the wreckage. I took my time, a full day, before crafting my reply. No eagerness, no residual anger, just cool professional detachment. Subject, a proposal. Robert, I am available for a brief meeting at my office at Chen Consulting Group on Monday at 10 a.m. Should that time be convenient for you? Please confirm. Best regards, Emily Vance. I deliberately chose my new turf, forcing him to come to me, subtly reinforcing the shift in power, dynamics. I hit send and closed my laptop, pushing thoughts of Miller and his desperation aside to enjoy my weekend. I wasn't walking into that meeting to seriously negotiate a return. I was walking in to hear his pitch, to witness his desperation firsthand, and ultimately, to deliver my final, unequivocal answer. At precisely 10 o'clock a.m. on Monday, Robert Miller was ushered into my office at Chen Consulting Group. The sleek, modern space, filled with natural light and buzzing with the quiet energy of productive collaboration, stood in stark contrast to the increasingly tense atmosphere I heard still permeated Miller Innovations. He looked terrible. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. His expensive suit seemed ill-fitting, and a nervous energy emanated from him as he perched awkwardly on the edge of the chair opposite my desk, his fingers tapping a restless rhythm on his briefcase. The confident, dismissive CEO, who had belittled me just weeks ago, was gone, replaced by a man visibly buckling under pressure. "Emily," he began, forcing a tight, strained smile. Thank you. Thank you for agreeing to see me. I simply nodded, waiting, offering no verbal encouragement. Look, he exhaled heavily, leaning forward slightly, attempting an earnest tone. I won't waste your time with excuses. I need you back at Miller Innovations. Desperately. Again, I said nothing, just let his words hang in the air, heavy with their own implicit confession of failure. He continued quickly, rushing his pre-rehearsed pitch. I understand now. I completely underestimated your role, your importance to our key client relationships. I admit that. I made a significant error in judgment regarding the promotion, regarding how Friday night was handled. It was a mistake. He paused, clearly hoping for some sign of softening from me. Seeing none, he pressed on. But Emily, we can make this right. We will make this right. If you agree to return, I am prepared to offer you, well, essentially whatever it takes. A substantial raise, significantly above your previous salary. A title, Senior Executive Vice President of Client Strategy and Operations, reporting directly to me, naturally. Full decision-making authority over your department, budget control, a guaranteed bonus structure. He sat back then, clearly expecting his lavish offer, his admission of error, to overwhelm me, to entice me back into the fold. He still didn't understand. I tilted my head slightly, regarding him with cool detachment. So, let me make sure I have this straight, Robert, I began slowly, deliberately. You had 5 years. 5 years while I consistently exceeded expectations, built client loyalty, mentored staff, and demonstrably contributed to the company's bottom line, to recognize my value. 5 years to offer me a meaningful promotion based on merit. 5 years to treat me with basic professional respect. I let that sink in before continuing, my voice remaining calm, almost clinical. But instead, you chose to pass me over for someone with 3 months of experience, publicly humiliated me by telling me to take notes from her, and essentially dismissed my years of hard work. And now, I leaned forward slightly, mirroring his earlier posture. Now, only after losing 3 major clients directly because I left, only after watching your company's reputation spiral downwards, only after facing pressure from your board and investors, now, suddenly, you're prepared to offer me everything I deserved all along? Robert's jaw tightened, a muscle twitching in his cheek. Emily, come on! Business is business. People make mistakes. I held up a hand, cutting him off gently but firmly. Let me ask you something, Robert, honestly. If I had never sent that resignation email Friday night, if I had just meekly accepted the situation, stayed quiet, and tried to take notes, like you suggested, would I be sitting in this chair right now, receiving this offer? Would you have ever recognized my true value, given me this level of authority and compensation, simply out of genuine appreciation for my work? Or, I paused, letting the question hang heavy between us, are you only doing this now out of sheer, unadulterated desperation because you're losing control and don't know how else to stop the bleeding? His silence, the way his gaze flickered away, unable to meet mine, screamed the answer louder than any words could. He never saw my worth until his own position was threatened, until it cost him dearly. I let out a small, almost imperceptible, amused laugh. That's precisely what I thought. Robert's desperation finally seemed to break through his remaining composure. Emily, for God's sake, be smart about this, he pleaded, his voice rising slightly. Think logically. You have history at Miller. You have relationships, institutional knowledge. You have a guaranteed future there now. Don't throw away all the hard work you put into building that company. I smiled then, a genuine, serene smile this time. Robert, I said softly, you still don't get it, do you? I stood up then, smoothing down my blazer, feeling a sense of closure settle over me. I leaned slightly across my desk, meeting his desperate gaze one last time. I never needed Miller Innovations, Robert. All along, you needed me. My skills, my relationships, my dedication. And now, I shrugged lightly, you're finally realizing it. His face darkened, but I could see the flicker of defeated panic behind his eyes. I turned, walking towards the door. I paused just before stepping out, looking back over my shoulder. You really should take notes this time, Robert, I said quietly, echoing his own condescending words back at him with deliberate irony. Maybe, just maybe, next time you'll learn to truly value the people who actually make your company run, before they walk away and build something better elsewhere. Then I walked out, closing the door softly behind me, leaving him alone with the consequences of his own arrogance and short-sightedness. I never looked back. Back at Chen Consulting Group, our momentum continued unabated. Our client roster had nearly doubled in less than 6 months, largely fueled by companies leaving Miller Innovations and seeking the stability and expertise our firm offered. Our reputation for excellence grew. Then, on a quiet Friday afternoon, a few weeks after my final meeting with Robert, Olivia Martin sent me one last brief update that made me laugh out loud. Olivia. FYI, it's official. Miller just got fired. Board forced him out this morning. Couldn't recover from the client losses or regain investor confidence. Effective immediately. I leaned back in my chair, sipping my coffee, a sense of quiet satisfaction washing over me. Perfect. Robert Miller had thought I was easily replaceable, a mere cog in his machine. Turns out, in the end, he was the one who was disposable. And me? I was exactly where I was meant to be, thriving, leading, and finally, truly valued for the contributions I made. Thank you for joining us for Emily's story of turning a professional setback into a major success on Life Stories. Have you ever had to make a tough decision to leave a job where you felt undervalued? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Please remember to like this video and subscribe for more stories about career challenges, resilience, and finding your professional worth. Know your value, always. Until next time.